Ekabo viewers, and welcome to this week's episode of Load Shedding, a show where we discuss current affairs pertaining to Africa.
As usual, we'll be discussing a positive topic, a controversial topic, a head-scratching topic, and as icing on the cake, a load-shedding favorite. My name is Kees
and I'm Ivory van der Boom. This week's positive topic is about a teacher, Ayub Mohamud. Mr. Mohamud teaches business and Islamic studies at Eastleigh High in Nairobi. But for the past 5 years, he's also been discussing de-radicalization in his religious education classes. For his efforts, the Barclay Foundation, which aims to help children from underprivileged backgrounds improve on their education, has nominated him for the Global Teachers Prize, which includes an award of $1 million. Now, make no mistake, we are living in troubling times in Africa. While our youth are supposed to be focusing on their education and bettering themselves, many countries have found their citizens engaging in extremist behavior. For example, in 2015, Al-Shabaab militants attacked a Kenyan university, killing 148 people. In 2013, they attacked the Westgate Mall in Kenya, killing 67 people. More recently in Nigeria, 2 girls blew themselves up at a refugee camp for people fleeing from Boko Haram. If you live in Southern Africa, you may be thinking, this is not really my problem. It's more a problem for Islamic countries. But let me remind you of the xenophobic attacks that happened in South Africa in 2015, which saw several people dead or missing and hundreds displaced from their homes. These attacks started a week after Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini was reported to have said that foreigners should pack their bags and go home. A terrible occurrence that is etched in our minds is the Rwandan genocide, which also centered around the incitement of hatred, in this case against the Tutsis. Also relevant to this topic is the terrorist group, the Lord's Resistance Army, which operates out of Uganda, the Central African Republic, the South Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, so it's quite widespread. It operates under the cult-like leadership of Joseph Kony, who is a self-proclaimed prophet. What's important to remember here is that the threat of terrorism in Africa is real, and the efforts of teachers like Ayub Mohamud can help to teach young people and adults about the dangers of extremism.
That is correct. The real lesson here is that education is vital in ameliorating many of Africa's social, economical, and personal problems, in fighting issues such as poverty, improving health and inequality, and now in fighting terrorism. If you're a teacher and you're watching this, we challenge you to learn from Ayub Mohamud and open the eyes of your students to the problems of extremism.
Well, his initiative should definitely be held, Ayub Mohamud's, and implemented in as many African countries as possible. The results are actually out on the 13th of March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's the only African finalist out of 10. I hope he wins.
Fingers crossed.
And now on to this week's controversial topic.
In this week's controversial topic, we question democracy in Africa. President Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe recently completed his tenureship as chairman of the AU, and to say that he's a president without controversies would be rather softly put. His seemingly never-ending rule, his questionable land reform program, and the allegations that he has committed human rights violations are but some of the hullabaloo surrounding him. Now out goes Mugabe and in comes Chad's president Idris Deby, who takes over as chairperson of the AU. Much like Mugabe, Idris Deby is a long-term ruler of his country whose re-elections have been marred by fraud and violence. Now this is where it gets interesting. Idris Deby is set to contest for presidency in Chad come April 2016. How then can he be elected as chairperson of the AU when elections are still ongoing in his own country? Does the AU have the ability to look into the foreseeable future and see that he is re-elected as president? Has it been set in stone? At this moment, there are 27 countries in Africa that are under authoritarian rule or have a nominal democracy, meaning a democracy in name only. 25 other countries have a flawed democracy, and only one country, mainly Mauritius, has been recognized to be fully democratic.
It's not surprising then that there is so much unrest among African people during election time. It's simply not a case of putting a ballot into a box.
You know, Ivory, it's funny you say that because we actually have a photograph of a police officer in Uganda running away with a ballot box whilst people were still trying to cast their vote.
What?
He allegedly did this when he realized that opposition was winning.
That's unbelievable. I don't quite know how to react to that. Normally leaders use scare tactics and even the identities of dead people to ensure their presidency. It must have worked for Museveni this time around because he's still the president. He won.
Yeah. You know, if our leaders were as inventive in finding ways to combat common problems as they are in apparently rigging the elections, the continent would be thriving much more.
You may need to condition your scalp after this week's head-scratching moment. A plane carrying millions of South African rand has been impounded in Zimbabwe after a dead body was found on board. The US-owned plane was flying from Germany to South Africa and it stopped over in Zimbabwe to refuel. This is where blood was seen dripping from the aircraft, which eventually led to the discovery of the body. The body has been confirmed to be a stowaway, and it's been speculated that someone must have climbed into the holding, had his arm ripped off when the holding door was closing, and bled out. Now, what's curious to me is that the body was said to be decomposing, which suggests that it could have been in the holding for a long time, or maybe the person was killed somewhere else and then put on the plane. It is not clear who this stowaway is or why he chose that particular plane.
Well, Ivory, there is millions of rands on that plane. That's motivation right there. Even though the rand has been dropping like it's hot.
What caught my attention about this story was, now listen to this, if the person was indeed a stowaway as opposed to a murder victim, then that meant that someone wanted to get into Africa. Normally people want to get out of Africa and they get caught in planes and boats and other things, in other countries.
Ivory, I think you're onto something there because yes, normally we hear stories about people dying to get out of Africa. And in this sense, somebody's dying to get into Africa. I mean, literally. Eish. I wonder what his story is. May his soul rest in peace.
It is a curious story, and I hope we find out what happened, and of course to the family of the victim, our condolences. On to this week's load shedding favorite.
Being given a second chance and grasping it is always a must-watch. This week we look at a Malawian prison band that created quite the buzz and was even nominated for a Grammy in the category Best World Music.
Having lost the Grammy has not made the prisoners lose hope of winning in the future. Better yet, the international and local fame from just having been nominated has boosted their confidence. The acting chief commissioner of prisons, Little Dinizulu Mtengano, who founded the band in 2008, has even supported the inmates' plea for a presidential pardon.
Listen to the band's 20-song album called I Have No Everything Here, written by Grammy Award winner Ian Brenner, who eventually gave the album international recognition. Benin's Angelique Kidjo eventually won the Grammy, but this by no means diminishes the incredible, joyous and hopeful sounds that the band managed to produce.
Do you think that they should be released from prison?
Well, I think so.
But we don't know what they did to get into prison. Should they be released because they're artistic?
Well, no. I mean, of course, not only has this the music capabilities helped them on the journey to reintegration, but of course, psychological stability and all those things need to be taken into consideration as well.
Oh, that's it from us. Let us know what you think about whether or not these prisoners should indeed be released based on their talents, and let us know about any of your other views on the topics that we've discussed today.
Like us, share us, subscribe to us on YouTube, join us on Facebook, and of course, place your comments below.
I will see you next week. I'm Ivory from the Bomb.
My name is Kees the Classmate. And remember, if the power goes,
Load shedding.